Hey folks, this is Kalani. Now, whether they caused horrific turmoil or was the best thing added to the game, we're going to be looking at the top 5 things we'll never forget about Mists of Pandaria. So we'll start this nice and quickly with number 5. Anybody who was around for the launch of Mists of Pandaria and indeed the announcement of Mists of Pandaria will remember all the hate. All of the nonsense around Mists of Pandaria being an elaborate joke. And then suddenly everybody found out it wasn't, and, well, kinder words have been said, but you can go back and look at all of the forums to do with World of Warcraft, pretty much across every single one. When Mists of Pandaria was announced up until its launch, people were theorising it was a joke. People were throwing out their ideas as to why it wasn't real, trying desperately to come up with something that was being released instead. But, save for all of that, the biggest complaint about Mists of Pandaria is actually quite funny, because a lot of people said it was a kids expansion to do with pandas and really kind of drove Kung Fu Panda home. That was one of the big things. But Mists of Pandaria honestly turned out to be one of the more mature ones, looking at things more philosophically and deeper answers than just kill, fight and win. So, either which way, it's nice to see that by the end of Mists of Pandaria, the general overview seems to be quite positive, but I don't think anybody will forget the hate. Swinging in at number 4, we have expanded cross-realm capabilities, including the cross-realm zones. So it was dabbled with. In Cataclysm, we had the ability to invite people to do dungeons and some old raids together if they were on a different server, but it wasn't until Mists of Pandaria that things finally went full swing, and we eventually got to the point where we couldn't really choose whether we wanted to be on the same server as someone from a different server, simply because cross-realm zones took over, and it's a little controversial, which is why I think many people won't be forgetting it anytime soon, considering it also is going forward with us, because while it did do what it was supposed to do, it brought a lot of people together in maps which were relatively empty and made them feel more alive. Sadly, some people kind of wanted that. I know a lot of people farming the time-lost Proto-Drake or any hunter finding any of the rare pets out in Wrath of the Lich King will probably be tearing their hair out at the introduction of cross-realm zones, because suddenly Lok Nahak has another 7 hunters hunting its whereabouts, and none of them are on your server, and suddenly you feel a little outraged because you're going to have to wait, or be incredibly lucky, or be a lot faster to get your hands on that rare pet or mount. So it did a lot of good things, it did quite a few bad things, but at least now we have the ability to invite pretty much whoever we want via the Lifaga tool, regardless if they're on our real ID list, which means no more spam from add-ons like OQ, and we can all happily get our Warlord's version of Celestials, whatever it may be and what may be introduced, done with no hassle at all. All cross-realm, all fun. It's obviously going to be a little interesting if anybody wants to go back to Mists of Pandaria and get any of the shiny rares, when maybe all of that is going to be cross-realm zones going forward as well. So I don't think this will be forgotten anytime soon. At number 3, we have something which was ridiculed almost as much as the expansion itself. Yes, that's right, I'm talking about WoW Pokemon. Wowcomon. Oh, no, pet battles, that's the one. So pet battles were introduced in Mists of Pandaria to a lot of stigma, a lot of prejudice, and a lot of people were screaming Pokemon in WoW, and at the essence of it, it pretty much is, but it's a blast if you actually give it a try. I remember a lot of people were talking about it the same way they're talking about garrisons now. They were scoffing and saying, oh, well, that's useless. What will we ever do with pet battles? And then when they finally got onto the beta and started playing with it, they spent way longer than they thought they would collecting pets, leveling pets, and finding out what they could exactly make, what team they could put together, which was unstoppable. And I can guarantee anyone who was hooked onto pet battles spent way too long farming rare pets. Anybody looking for the unborn Valkyria, good luck, have fun. And basically, it turned into something which has added a lot to the game. I recently started poking around with it, and I see myself going forward with it in Warlords of Draenor, as long as they add new things. As the true first minigame to be included within World of Warcraft itself, I'd say it did exceptionally well, and I believe they may have hit a little goldmine here. More things to collect, more things to grind out. It's what we love after all, and I don't think it's going from anybody's memory, especially the folks who have every single battle pet at level 25 of rare quality. I don't understand how they do it. Up near the top at number 2 we have flexible raiding. Now Siege of Orgrimmar was the first raid to have flexible mode enabled, and it really increased the amount of people who could see the raid. You could happily move on from looking for raid in the same kind of wing system, but take a varying amount of people. If you had 10 people on one day and 25 the other, it literally was no problem. You could happily continue where you left off with all those new bodies, and you could go forward with 13, 17, 19, however many people you had online was how many people you could take, as long as you had more than 10. So flexible raiding really set the stage for everything that we're going to know as raiding in Warlords of Draenor. Everything is flexible except Mythic, which in and of itself is actually really cool. Because there's a fixed 20 man for the hardest difficulty, they can tune it perfectly. They no longer have to tune for both 10 and 25. They don't have to add additional mechanics for 25. They don't have to have any discrepancies between those two difficulties, meaning that it's a nice slate to do things like world firsts. Everybody's going to be on the same playing field. But flexible raiding is what we're talking about, and it just increases what you can do as a guild. That extra DPS who comes online and has to be benched because you're a 10-man guild, that's no longer the case. As long as your healers can keep up, you can take as many people as you have, as long as you're not trying to take 5 tanks. I guess that's one thing that isn't quite flexible, but hey, if they're a warrior, just swap into gladiator stance and no problem. But I don't think anyone's going to forget flexible raiding anytime soon. We've got it going into Warlords, and it's probably one of the best ways to do it. Up at the tippy top, at number 1, we have something which I don't think anybody's going to be forgetting in a very long time. Everybody will be pointing back to it as the glory days of 6.0, as it's probably what 90% of players spent a lot of their time doing when the patch hit. I'm talking, of course, of the Frog Exodus. For some reason, some unknown reason, okay, it was lesser charms of good fortune, but people were decimating these frogs. People were grouping up, just spamming the Lifiger tool with looking for more frogs. Okay, it's not frogs, but it's frogs, I lied. And people were killing them for the lesser charms, which obviously were incredibly valuable, because if you had lesser charms you could upgrade your gear all the way to 4 as many times as you needed. Each piece of gear, you could replace all of your gear in a single week in the raids, which you could probably do anyway, because those lesser charms were also used for the reroll tokens, which had no limit, and you could reroll endlessly on a certain boss. Basically it was free loot, but you could get enough loot to replace your gear several times in a week, and you could upgrade all of it. You didn't have to worry. You just had to kill more frogs. More frogs, more frogs, more frogs. The amount of frogs that was splattered across the front page of WoW forums was kind of ridiculous. You could search WoW frogs and you're pretty much only going to get one answer. So, frogs. The epitome of Mists of Pandaria was killing frogs. But either which way, that's 5 things that I certainly won't be forgetting, and I hope you don't too. Mists of Pandaria is over in just a few short hours. We've only got less than a day remaining, so let's send it off in the best way we can. But that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, folks. Good luck and have fun, and as always, I will see you next time.